very pleasant good morning and welcome to the launch of the UPP Book of Major Achievements. I am Jackie Quinn, and I had the very distinct honor of being a part of the UPP administration from 2004 to 2014. Today's book launch is a seminal moment in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. After years of research, writing, proofreading, editing, it is an opportunity to share with all of Antiguans and Barbudans, wherever they are in the world, the stellar performance of the UPP administration from 2004 to 2014, with real, tangible achievements, projects, accomplishments. It gives an overview of the historical, socio-political, cultural, and economic conditions that the UPP had to overcome during its tenure. This book is the quintessential account of the UPP's track record of performance and our legacy of putting people first during the party's 2 terms in office. We see it as a detailed report card on the administration's programs and policies across all sectors of government. What this book does is to shine the spotlight on the UPP's flagship programs and initiatives that were introduced to empower Antiguans and Barbudans. As you will see when the program unfolds, the stark and glaring comparison when stacked up beside the colossal failure of this administration, which is completing its own 2 terms in office. Today's book launch, ladies and gentlemen, is not just retrospective, it is also prospective. We are looking into the future at the new UPP administration, bringing fresh, bright, visionary policies to empower, enable, and enrich the people. You heard me right. Enrich the people. We want to welcome you very warmly and to ask you to share widely. We are on UPP TV, on my UPP Facebook page, on the Zoom platform, and we're also on Progressive 107.3 FM. Today, for the first segment of the launch, our panelists are 2 very distinguished gentlemen, our former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer and political leader of the United Progressive Party, Harold Lovell. Later on, we will be joined by the Deputy Political Leader, the Honorable Jamal Pringle. We also want to welcome all of those journalists who are joining us here in studio or on the Zoom platform or on Facebook or via radio. We appreciate having you, and you will get an opportunity, journalists, to ask probing questions in the second half of the program. So let us begin at the beginning and examine the book development. Mr. Lovell, I want to start with you. I want to put you in the hot seat. You like to be in the hot seat. So tell us about this UPP's Major Achievements book. What was the rationale for it? Tell us a bit about the thought processes that went into the creation of this very seminal document.
Thank you, and let me say good morning to everyone. The idea of the Book of Accomplishments started with a decision that it was necessary for the UPP to document what had taken place during the 10 years of the UPP administration. This was important for several reasons. One, in terms of credibility, that when the UPP says that we will do A, B, or C, we have a track record showing that we have the capacity to perform. In terms of vision, it really was an opportunity, or presents an opportunity for the nation and others to see the UPP People First vision in action. But the third point I would say is that it's very important for any administration to have documented its achievements, because if you don't control that narrative, and if you do not own your legacy, then others will try to spin it and destroy it. We saw the PLM in 5 years doing wonders in this country. And the Labour Party made it their business to systematically besmirch, destroy, and tell people vast amount of lies with respect to what the PLM had achieved. And so it is important that we own our legacy and we control the narrative with respect to what really happened during the 10 years of the UPP administration.
Mm-hmm. No, your critics will say, oh, well, you know, you're not in office. Why are you digging up the past? Why is this necessary? Why, how would you respond to the critics who throw this type of trivia at you?
Well, I'm glad you said trivia, because really, I'm hard-pressed to see how anyone could see this as anything other than a grand achievement and a useful enterprise. This is something that we will be able to look back on for a very long time. We also have to remember that there are youngsters who can vote today and who in 2004 may have been 5 years old or 10 years old and may not have had an opportunity to really know what happened. And so this forms part of the important historical record for Antigua and Barbuda. This will become a major document that people will be able to refer to. Because let's not beat around the bush. In another few years, people will be asking, who introduced this? How did that happen? When did that happen? This book provides that opportunity for those who may not have lived the experience of the UPP administration to be able to have a reference document that they can look at and know for sure exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm. So this document is not only providing insights into the UPP's program, but it is also giving a sense of purpose and saying to young people who may not be familiar with what happened between the years 2004 to 2014, here is a solid track record for you to go forward and make your choice, the right choice in the election.
Absolutely, and this we believe will serve a very useful purpose, because obviously the manifesto is still to come, but this lays the foundation so that people can see that the manifesto will represent continuity based on a single vision, and that vision is always putting the people of Antigua and Barbuda first, designing programs so that people will benefit. And throughout this book, you will see that every program, every project, every initiative, it had people at the center of that. And I think that's very important. And whilst my good brother is here, Brother Spencer, I have to thank him for giving to the party that very noble and that incomparable approach to development. That sometimes we take things from a textbook, sometimes we are abstract in the way we describe things. But to implement people policies, people-oriented policies, to put it into practice, that's something completely different, because it means you have to distill the theory and find practical ways to put the theory into practice. And without the leadership of Brother Spencer, possibly I would say a lot of this could not have happened, because a ship without a competent captain is a ship that will soon end up on the reefs of destruction.
And I'm happy that you ended with that last comment, because I want to segue to Brother Baldwin. Mr. Spencer, we saw you as a visionary leader, someone who had a strong philosophy in putting people at the center of everything that you did. And therefore, this book of major achievements really is a testimony to your legacy. Perhaps you can share with us, you know, the thinking, having gotten into office in 2004. What was at the forefront of your mind in terms of transforming Antigua and helping people?
Thank you, Jackie. First of all, let me use this opportunity to commend all those individuals who were involved in the pulling together of what I consider to be absolutely incredible document that has been produced to really put in clear terms exactly what the United Progressive Party would have done to transform Antigua and Barbuda during its 10 years in office. And so to those individuals who had anything to do with the coming together and pulling together and achieving this document, I just want to say kudos to all of you, some more directly, others more indirectly, but whoever. It is absolutely a masterpiece in terms of its production and its contents, outlining clearly what the United Progressive Party was able to accomplish with the support and encouragement of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. In terms of my being very much at the helm of things during this period, clearly my feeling had always been one that says, well, we are all in this together. Yes, I am there to provide some leadership and to provide support and encouragement, but certainly what is required was this commonality of purpose and the determination by all of us to transform Antigua and Barbuda and to make it a better place for us to live and have our being, and in addition to that, to remain true to our philosophy, and that is putting people first. And as you go through this document, and as you examine the accomplishments, you will clearly see that it was based on wanting to do the best for the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
What makes this document, this book, unique, Brother Lovell? Many of these achievements are born out of what Brother Baldwin spoke about, the philosophy of putting people at the center. Speak to the uniqueness of this book, because I can't recall any other political party actually documenting in black and white, well, this is color as well, documenting for posterity their achievements during their tenure.
It's a teaching document in many ways.
Yes.
And the points made by Brother Spencer a moment ago are borne out in this document. That it's easy to just move on and to talk about things that we could have done. You will have arguments as to what was actually done. What this does, it creates an opportunity for introspection. For me, certainly, looking at the document, we can see those things that we did well. We can look at those things that we could have improved upon. And the human memory is fallible, we all know. And there are things that we will just forget. When you take this document, it allows us to go back and to remind ourselves of some of those things which we still need to enlarge upon, some of the initiatives that need to be refreshed. And it is for, as I mentioned earlier, for younger people, a tool for historical perspective, to give them a correct view of the history of Antigua and Barbuda. Because in many ways, this is an historical document. Not just a historic document, but an historical document where we can refer to specific things. And this will be something that will be remembered for time to come. And as you mentioned, there is not, as far as I'm aware, on record, any other political party in the Eastern Caribbean, maybe wider Caribbean, but not in the Eastern Caribbean, where they have taken the trouble to document all the things that they have done.
Yeah. You know what is interesting, both of you? The fact that children born, and this is a very important point which you raised, Brother Lovell. Children who were born in 2004, when the UPP first came into office, will be voting for the very first time in this election. And they may not, well, they would not, because they were babies, would not have known of the large body of work, the achievements, the policies, the programs. Many of them are benefiting from these programs today. I want you to speak to the bridging that generational gap for the youth who may be unfamiliar with the UPP's policies and programs.
Absolutely. I certainly agree with that point, and that it is important for the younger generation to have a better understanding and appreciation of what the United Progressive Party would have done to bring us to a point where we were able to achieve so many things during those 10 years. And this document will certainly lay the foundation and clearly lay out exactly what the United Progressive Party did against the backdrop. And it must be remembered that when we took office in 2004, Antigua and Barbuda was described as a bandit and rogue state, a totally corrupt country. And we had to engage not only in changing that image of our country, but to move forward and achieve the things that we were able to achieve with the people of Antigua and Barbuda being the beneficiaries of our efforts. And I think it is important for the people of this country to understand that, especially the younger generation, for them to have a greater appreciation. And I hope that this will be well circulated and these individuals will take the opportunity to look into this, read it, and have a greater appreciation and understanding, because they must also appreciate that there were serious difficulties and challenges that we would have had to deal with the situation in terms of how Antigua and Barbuda was perceived at the time. And to have gone ahead against that backdrop, changing the image of Antigua and Barbuda in the eyes of the international community, where Antigua and Barbuda was being described then, and we all knew it, as a rogue and bandit state, and we were able to turn that around and to be able to develop that kind of relationship with the international community again, and to place Antigua and Barbuda as one of those countries that the international community would begin to respect. And that's one, in my view, one of the major accomplishments of the United Progressive Party, changing the bad image that we inherited from the Antigua Labour Party when we took office in 2004.
And one of the early bits of legislation that you would have implemented, the trilogy of legislation.
Absolutely.
Accountability, transparency,
That's
integrity
correct.
in public life.
Yes.
Tell us a little about the challenges, Brother Lovell, that you would have had, your team would have encountered in publishing this book, in putting this together.
Well, I want to commend the team for putting the book together. And the challenge, of course, or some of the challenges included, first of all, finding the information. This meant extensive research through the various newspapers and tracing documents. And in this regard, I must commend Ms. Rachel Collis, because the very first documentation for the 10 years in government was actually done by Rachel Collis, a very good piece of work, which we then were able to mold and fashion into what we have here today. But the challenges were many, and as I look in, there's still things which I am not seeing.
Yes.
So even though it is quite comprehensive, there's still one or two things that we could have included, but it was almost impossible to include everything. So the challenges were many, but I am very proud of the team. I don't think I'll be leaving out anybody, but I think I would like to mention the work done by Mr. Van Kelt, the work done by Omaima David, the work done by the Reed Whitlock, the work done by Sister D. Giselle Isaac as consultants on this project, and in many cases, actual hands-on contributions. So it's been a major accomplishment, and I think it's important to mention those persons who was very instrumental in making this happen. I hope I haven't left out anyone, but these certainly were the persons who were very much at the center of making this a reality. And also Brother Winston Henry. Okay. It would be terribly remiss of me, and I would probably need a bodyguard.
After you leave here. What are some of, let's look at some of the key takeaways from this book, because we have young people, older people watching this program and saying, let me cast my mind back to what did the UPP achieve. Let's talk about some of the key takeaways from this major achievements 2004-2014.
Well, if I may just start the ball rolling on this. Again, based on the United Progressive Party's philosophical view, it was important for us to ensure that the People First agenda was brought alive. Yes. In terms of what we did. And so when one examines the development of the social programs of the United Progressive Party during those 10 years, which would have impacted the lives of ordinary people, where we were placing emphasis on ensuring that the most vulnerable, the most individuals who needed to be supported in order for them to be able to play their part as individuals in society, that we had to develop programs which would impact their lives. And so when one looks at the social programs, I mean, they're all outlined in this document here. The school uniform program, the school meals program, where we were seeking to ensure that these youngsters are taken care of and their families are able to exist by virtue of the establishment of those programs. But when you look at other accomplishments beyond that, beyond the social programs, we were also into the business of ensuring that the economy of Antigua and Barbuda was organized in such a way that the ordinary man and woman in Antigua and Barbuda would be an integral part of the movement forward in terms of economic development. And so it was not only a question of creating jobs, which was always very much part of our agenda, but at the same time to ensure that we get our people involved as far as possible and practicable in the economic thrust of the country. And so the foundation was laid. And when you look at the kinds of organizations and institutions and so on that the United Progressive Party created in an effort to ensure that we channel the energies and so on of the people in a particular direction so that they understand and appreciate that we are about doing our best for the people. It is all set out in this document. It is all displayed so that people will be able to fully appreciate and understand. And I want to make a point here. Some people seem to be suggesting that why are we talking about the past and your achievements? It is extremely important for the people of Antigua and Barbuda to understand that the United Progressive Party is not coming to them at this time wanting to get into office and don't have a record. We have a record of achievement, and what this demonstrates is that we have the capacity and the capability to take us to the next level in terms of the achievements that we would have accomplished during our 10-year period. So it is very, very important that the people of this country have an understanding and appreciation and remember and be focused on the achievements of this party, because that in itself would show that we have the capacity, we are capable, the same United Progressive Party, that we can now take this thing based on what we have achieved in the past, based on our view of the future and what we need to do. We have the capability and the capacity to move to the next level and achieve what we have to achieve.
We did it before, and we can do it again.
Exactly.
In other words, that's the long and short of it. You know, people, Brother Lovell, always rattle off the things that the Labour Party has kept. The school meals program, the dollar barrel initiative, the uniform grant program, the utility subsidy credit. But when we look back, Brother Lovell, at the work that would have been done in tourism, the record hotel construction, for instance, Hermitage and Sandals, Veranda and Sugar Ridge, all constructed under the UPP's tenure. The ICT revolution. I mean, there is so much there for people to look back and see this government was a working government, a government that served the people and that had a plan to implement, and not just ground fakings and not just the type of failure that we've seen from this administration.
No, absolutely. And the point has to be emphasized. Implementation is the key to success. And that's where this government has failed. Implementation. We've seen a lot of big talk, a lot of big plans, but when you ask yourself, how many new properties bring in new quality hotel rooms to Antigua and Barbuda as a tourism destination? This government can't actually point to anything, now I think about it, from scratch. If you look at the Royalton, there was a pre-existing property there.
Yes.
And Stephen Hunter, who came during the period of the UPP and held discussions with us, but waited until after the elections because he wanted to be sure. But even if we look at that, that's a property that was renovated. But in terms of breaking ground, foundation, and building up, that is not easy. And I feel very proud that we saw the construction of Sandals from ground zero, from base. We saw Hermitage from nothing all the way up. Same thing with Veranda, same thing with Sugar Ridge, same thing with Hodges Bay. Hodges Bay Club had to be halted during the global crisis because the bankers had problems. But at the end of the day, it's not easy to actually move from the conceptual design to actually making it happen. And, you know, in each case of those properties that I mentioned, there were tremendous challenges. You know, you have to be active in helping to weave the way through the environmental challenges, the planning issues, the issues with respect to the plant protection, when some of the properties wanted to bring in maybe types of grasses, types of trees, all of that had to go through a process and to make it move. But I would say the thing that I think from tourism, the thing that stands out in my mind most was getting those properties owned by Antiguans and Barbudans off the ground, all those small properties. It's a total of about 61 in terms of all those that were fully developed. They're there, but what we were able to do was to develop all of those properties within the space of less than 18 months. And that's because a special unit was set up. We guided people through the processes of customs, again, all the planning issues.
That's the CABI. That's not the CABI.
No, that's not CABI.
That's not
that's
CABI?
the Cricket World Cup
Oh, yes,
Incentives
that was
Program.
right.
And to make it happen. And that required a lot of hand-holding and making it work. That is what this administration has not been able to do. And then you mentioned the Construct Antigua and Barbuda initiative. And that too was a multi-stakeholder initiative, bringing everybody together for good. And so the wholesalers, the hardware stores, the government, the insurance companies, the lawyers, the banks, everyone, the contractors, everyone came together, decided everybody would give up something and make it work. And it worked, and it's still there up to this day. We have not seen anything of the sort from this administration. No creative initiatives that make things happen.
Yes. And while you talk about the construction of those hotels, those major hotels, as well as the small bed and breakfast facilities, you can't leave out the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium,
Right.
the Mount St. John's, Celeste Bird Medical Center. You can't leave out the Golden Mile.
That's right. And the importance of the Golden Mile over on Friars Hill Road, one of the main things is that there was no check your minister in that.
Yeah.
That entire area, you talk about the shopping malls.
Village Walk.
Village Walk, the
Royal
Bryson's
Palm.
building, the Royal Palm, the cinemas, all the way up to the American University of Antigua.
Right.
If you go all the way around, you find that those projects all came off the ground with the assistance of the Antigua and Barbuda Investment Authority.
Yes.
And it was seamlessly done, no political bribery, no check your minister, no if the politician doesn't want it, it doesn't happen. These things were executed by trained Antiguans and Barbudans who are competent in their field. They interfaced with the people who wanted to do the development. And we were able to get these things done in a manner that today they're all standing as proud monuments of the UPP's ability to deliver. There is no similar track record on the part of the Antigua Labour Party at present. Everything they talk about, they get bogged down in the politics of it, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Now, I want to put you both on the spot because, I mean, we're talking about 80 pages, huh? The 80 pages of solid achievements. And I just want to ask you, which of the achievements would you say you are most proud of? Well, Brother Spencer, you can perhaps take credit for everything because it was under your leadership that these things happened. But what would stand out in your mind, sir, as your proudest moments in this book of major achievements?
I think it is very important for us to understand and appreciate that when we took office in 2004, this nation was considered, as I said before, a rogue and bandit state, and the international community did not regard Antigua and Barbuda at that time as an integral part of the Committee of Nations.
In fact, we were known as the most corrupt country in the Eastern Caribbean.
Precisely.
People must know that.
And it is important for us to understand that the United Progressive Party, during its first tenure in office, was able, by its actions, by its approach, and what we did, we were able to change that image of this country and placed us in a position where Antigua and Barbuda once again was regarded as a respected country and an integral part of the Committee of Nations. So much so that when you examine the situation, Antigua and Barbuda's position on the United Progressive Party administration was such that we were respected to such an extent where our views, our opinions, our positions on matters, Caribbean, international, and so on, were sought and to a very great extent appreciated and supported. We did a marvelous job in that regard, and to return Antigua as a respected member of the international community. For me, that is a major accomplishment. Of course, since we have left office and looking at what has been happening in our country, we are going right back to the prior 2004 era in that regard, where the respect for Antigua and Barbuda is waning quite considerably. And in addition to that, we are returning to the kind of image that we inherited when we took office in 2004, being corrupt, being a bandit, being just a bad country. And so I would regard that as a major, quite apart from the other things that we were able to do. I think that that was very, very important for us. And we did an excellent job in that regard. And so I want to, you see, again, I don't want to take personal credit for these things. I saw what we did. We did it together as a team, and we worked earnestly.
But you were the shepherd. You were the shepherd of the flock.
Very well, very well. But, we could not have accomplished it if we did not have that unity of purpose and that commonality of understanding that this is the way to go and this is what we want to achieve on behalf of the people of Antigua and Barbuda, particularly those individuals who needed that extra support and that extra help in all of that. I want to make a quick point before we forget.
Yeah, sure.
And it is important because we have to speak to the question of how we approach the issues with respect to what we used to describe as non-nationals among us. Because the United Progressive Party was the first party in this country to have specifically done certain things to ensure that we give respect to our non-national brothers and sisters from the Caribbean in particular. When we introduced the Millennium Naturalization Act, with thousands of non-nationals under that act, became citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, and that the threat of their not supporting the Labour Party at the time would mean that they would be sent home. We changed that perception and we created a situation, and there were thousands. If my memory serves me correctly, when that thing was implemented and given and put into effect, there were over 4,000 to 5,000 individuals who would have benefited from that initially. And so it is clear that we not only wanted to do good for the individuals, who were born and bred in Antigua and Barbuda, but our whole approach to governance created an environment in which not only the nationals of Antigua and Barbuda, but those who have come and lived among us were regarded as an integral part of the development of this country. We created that kind of environment.
Yes.
And that must be emphasized. And I want to make it clear to the nationals that the United Progressive Party was the party who changed the image in terms of how these non-nationals ought to be considered, and to integrate them into the society and make them an integral part of the nation's future development. The United Progressive Party was the party who did that.
Yes. Brother Lovell, your proudest achievements?
I would say it would be dealing with the challenges that came with the global economic meltdown and bringing together a team comprising local technical people as well as assistants from the region and working in collaboration with international organizations. That required an enormous amount of coordination and a unity of purpose in terms of what we wanted to achieve, and putting together the National Economic and Social Transformation Plan, the NEST plan.
Yes.
That was very important so that we had a blueprint and we knew exactly what it is that we needed to do. And so it was built on 4 pillars: the fiscal consolidation program, the economic action plan, the financial stability program, and the social transformation program. All of these had a particular role to play. For example, the social transformation program, which was intended to make sure that with some of the measures that we were introducing and making sure that we guided the country through this difficult time, that we made sure that no one was left behind and there was an adequate social protection net to bring everybody to a point where nobody would be in a position where there was no assistance forthcoming. And then in terms of the economic stabilization, going through that very difficult period, we had to have a basic plan. And this was the plan that we followed, and it brought Antigua out of the crisis before all the other countries in the OECS. We were the first to return to robust growth after the global economic crisis, and also putting in place reforms which are there up to today. Reforms in the Treasury, Inland Revenue Department, Customs, and looking after the workers also, because Customs, they had their building refurbished in a way that made it more comfortable. Inland Revenue, we were able to give them comfortable new premises. The Department of Audit got comfortable new premises. The Treasury Department, we started the building, which was completed many years later under the Antigua Labour Party. But all in all, looking about those things and putting those very necessary reforms in place is the basis on which this government can now collect revenue, and they're collecting more revenue than ever before in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. And that is because of the reforms that we carried out, which allows them to reap those benefits.
Yeah, and I think that there's some people who are not aware that it really was the CIP was started under the UPP.
That's correct. Yeah.
We introduced it, but never benefited from it because we, of course, were voted out of office in 2014. I want to speak just a little about some of the things that would have impacted large swaths of the society the ICT revolution, for instance, that GATE program that was started on the Dr. Edmund Mansour, and the Connect Antigua Barbuda initiative. The fact that in finance, on 2 occasions, in 2005 and in 2008, we would have increased the minimum pension. I mean, we are talking about moving pensions from a mere $250.
Less than that.
In some cases,
In
some
some
people are
cases,
getting
$179.
$179 and so on, and moving it up to $1,100. We're talking about the minimum wage. We put together the minimum wage advisory committee, and we increased the minimum wage. I mean, this government has talked about increasing the minimum wage, and they've put a committee in place, and nothing for the 8 years that they've been in office. You know, these are things, the universal secondary education and the new schools that we would have constructed. Sir McChesney George in Barbuda, the first secondary school in Barbuda. Those 3 new schools that we would have introduced on the universal secondary education. The OECS Cancer Center, which was your brainchild,
Yeah.
Brother Baldwin. We are talking about solid accomplishments, which we are extremely proud of. We're going to wrap up this segment of the program. I don't know if we could get some parting words from Brother Baldwin, because you're going to be replaced by Brother Jamal in just a few minutes. Your final words on this very solid document that we have here today.
Yes, and what I would wish to say as I started out, to commend the individuals who would have worked to bring this about. I think it's important. It is important that the people of Antigua and Barbuda have a grasp and a full appreciation in this documented form, so that they can sit and read and go through and have a full appreciation of the major achievements of the United Progressive Party between 2004 and 2014. And this was done because we wanted to ensure that we transform the lives of the ordinary people of Antigua and Barbuda, and that we stuck to our philosophy of putting people first. And when you examine the areas of accomplishments, the things that we consider as major achievements, you will see that thread running right through, which speaks to wanting to do what is good for the people, or putting the people first.
Now, we want to thank former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer for joining us for this very first segment of the program, where we took a look back at the UPP's achievements from 2004 to 2014. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the future. We're going to get into prospective mode, and we're going to be joined by Deputy Political Leader and Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Jamal Pringle, as we look at major achievements 2004 to 2014, achieving the right things at the right time, benefiting Antigua and Barbuda. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the launch of the UPP's Book of Major Achievements. We are now joined by Deputy Political Leader and Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Jamal Pringle, and we're now moving from retrospective to prospective mode. We're looking ahead. We're going forward. We're looking to the future. The UPP has demonstrated a solid track record. Clearly, voters will make the link that we did it before and we can do it again. With the right team, the right policies, and visionary, young, dynamic leadership and our people first focus. Mr. Pringle, welcome. Now, if we can start with you, sir. Who exactly, this book is a precursor to our manifesto. And I know that you have been addressing your minds to some of the major challenges that you will face once you step into office. Tell us, who are the people you are targeting? What are the audiences that you want to reach as deputy political leader of the United Progressive Party and a future leader of this country?
First and foremost, Sister Jackie, let me say good morning to you and good morning to the esteemed leader, Brother Harold Lovell. I must say I am indeed grateful to be sitting here speaking on the major achievement of the United Progressive Party 2004 to 2014. I think I'm honored to be able to be given a platform of such to speak on, because, you know, when in order for us to know where we're going, we must know where we're coming from.
Yes.
And when we look at the foundation that was laid by the United Progressive Party, I think it's important for us to acknowledge what happened, and more so for us as young people who at that point may not be paying attention to some of the things that they did or we did when we were in office. So for me, I'm indeed honored that, you know, I am able to stand on a firm foundation going forward.
That's right.
You know, it's very important because our target audience, I think, is Antigua and Barbuda in general. But more so, I think this book is something that every young person should take a read of. Because when we look at what is happening now, compared to what was happening then, I think this book gives a clear outline that there's no other choice for Antigua and Barbuda than the United Progressive Party. So for the young people, my age and younger, I think that this is a very good read. I've went through it over and over, and I realized there are so many things.
Yes.
And as I said on Dave yesterday, we're only speaking of the major achievements. We're not speaking on all the achievements, because, you know, it's heartwarming to know that there was an organization that was elected, and it wasn't about self, but every step of the way, every program, every policy implemented then was geared towards people. And I'm happy to know that these policies aligned right with what I was looking for in an organization, and I'm proud to be able to carry forward the mission, continue the mission that they started in 2004. So for us, we can look forward to some great things, because to do anything less would be a misfortune for us as an organization.
I'm really happy that you encouraged the young people and people generally, Antiguans and Barbudans, to read the document. It is now on our website, www.voteupp.com. So it's also on the My UPP Facebook page. You can read the document. Don't let it be said that we are not a reading public. We are a reading public. That is a disrespect that was done to the people of Antigua and Barbuda by this administration. We are a reading public. Now, we're looking to take the reins of governance. What do you say, Brother Lovell, Brother Jamal, to those 18-year-olds who will be voting for the first time, to those grandmothers who have paid their dues, grandmothers and grandfathers, sorry, who have paid their dues and are constantly being disrespected by this administration. Those business people, Brother Lovell, who want to see a level playing field. How does the future look for Antiguans and Barbudans under a UPP administration? With you at the helm, with you at the helm.
The approach to governance is very important.
Yes.
You mentioned respect, and respect is the key to having a successful and meaningful relationship with the people of the country. This administration has taken the view, and especially through the leader, Gaston Brown, that they can disrespect people, that they speak down to people, they have no regard for listening to the wishes of the people. And that's one of the reasons why nothing seems to get off the ground and nothing seems to happen. Now, we will adopt a completely different approach. Our approach will be one that will be inclusive. It will be an approach where respect for people will be fundamental. I think once we do that, we're off to a different start, and you will see things start to happen. The economy is going to be very important for us. At the moment, there doesn't appear to be any clear direction. Every month or every few months, they throw out something that is not in the budget, was never spoken of before. And so the economic driver is really based on, or the drivers of the economy at the moment is really based on persons who may come to Antigua with an idea. They pitch it to the government jumps with it, and they say, we're going to do that. They do no proper due diligence. So everything just fizzles out and nothing happens. We need a planned approach where we know where we want to go. And at the moment, we have already put on the table our Fresh Start initiative.
Yes.
Because what we realize is government is the biggest player in the economy. And at the moment, the government owes everybody. They owe small, medium, and large businesses. This has affected the ability of a lot of these businesses to function. Many of them have closed down because the government owes them so much money that it has affected their cash flow to the point where they simply cannot survive. We need to fix that with a fresh start. And by that fresh start, we say we will bring all the persons who are owed by government together, and we will structure a clear repayment plan. We won't be able to pay everything in one lump sum in the first 6 months or even maybe the first year. But what we will do for sure is make a difference by saying we can pay you whether it be in 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. But there will be certainty. And if we owe you, say, $100,000, that $100,000, we will say we will clear that within a time period that we will negotiate and discuss. But in the meantime, we won't just leave you hanging there. We'll treat it like a bond, the same way we did Social Security. So you see, we have precedents that we can rely on. We will say the amount that we owe you, we can clear this in, say, 24 months. We'll pay you half up front, or whatever amount we agree on. The balance, we're going to pay you interest on that. So we keep your cash flow moving. But we can tell you with certainty that in the 24 months, give a date, that's when the amount that we owe you will be paid in full, and that becomes then like a bond maturing at that point. Now, when you do that, you give people certainty. You give business people, small, medium, and large, the opportunity to plan what it is they plan to do, because they know that on such and such a date, they'll be getting X number of dollars in their hand. In the meantime, the interest payments that we will make, it will allow government to retain some of its own cash flow, and at the same time give to business people the necessary cash flow that they can keep moving. Because remember, every time you owe, whenever you owe people money, that's a cost to those people, because if they had that money on the bank, it would be earning interest. So you have to take that into account in a way that we're going to get money circulating in the economy once again, and getting the businesses really up and running. And then we want to put some new packages on the table as to how we're going to diversify the economy, new sectors of the economy that we want to open up, and the emphasis is going to be helping people to own their own businesses and to be successful in their businesses. Once we do that, we're going to establish a solid economic base, and everything else is going to flow from that. Because until we have a solid economic base, everything else becomes pie in the sky.
Brother Jamal?
Yes, and since we understand that the playing field is not level, our local businesses aren't given the opportunity to develop the way that they are to. For example, when you look at the level of concessions that we give to foreign investors, we don't support our local investors in that manner.
At all.
And we're saying that we're sure of these people. We have to give them that opportunity for them to grow and to expand. We're going to offer incentives to local businesses for employing persons here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes.
So we're giving them the opportunity to expand, and they absorbing the workforce. It helps us to reduce the amount of persons we put in the government system. So for example, you have a business looking to expand. You look at it, okay, they may need 10 persons. You encourage them, give them incentives to go a little further, and give them tax relief to employ more persons, so that we don't have to absorb them in the government system. Because
what I'm seeing is the enabling environment is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also to our small and medium-sized businesses, we are offering them the support that they need so that they can be successful. Where we understand financing is a problem, we will also guarantee loans for small businesses so that they can have that cash injection that they need to go the extra mile, with the support of our youth entrepreneurship setup, where this is a program, a policy that we're putting in place, where these businesses have access to accountants, marketers, have all the back office personnel that you need. We are giving them this support so that they can be successful. And what you have is a business, basically a business incubator to help businesses to be successful. So when you have somebody walking the path with you until you're able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
So again, it fits right into our philosophy of people first.
Yes.
We have to now look at creating our new entrepreneurs for the future. We cannot continue to give everybody a job in government. It doesn't make sense. So we are going to encourage people. I know we did, and I'm quite sure it's in this book, we offer the voluntary separation package. And that may very well something that we look at again, but in a different format. Because while we want persons, we want to reduce the public sector, we have to find means and ways of keeping these people employed. So what do you do? 50% of your package, we can give you 50% and you invest 50% into a small business, or come together with others and form a partnership so that we continue to grow our economy with businesses, because we understand that small businesses are the engine
Of growth in any
of
economy.
growth in an economy.
Brother Lovell, what I'm hearing from both of you is that we are about empowering the people, enabling, giving them an enabling environment, and allowing the people to thrive in a UPP administration. And your philosophy certainly is still people first. Now, without giving away too much, because I know the manifesto will come soon, what are some of your core initiatives, Brother Lovell, which will occupy the early months of the new UPP administration?
Well, in addition to the points I made regarding the economy, and Brother Jamal expanded on those, it's all about getting the quality of life of our people back on track.
Yes.
Water. We have to fix water. And not with flippant phrases about we'll do it in 14 days and so on. That's foolishness. We need a plan. The three arms of the water system: production, storage, and distribution. We need to get that right. If it's production, get the experts together and let's see what we can do with the dams and the other surface water facilities. Get experts, local and overseas, and we get that right. Desalination, continue a program of good maintenance and keeping the water flowing through proper management of the facilities that we have. There are new ways that are being developed, new technologies. We'll partner with other countries, for example, extracting water from the atmosphere, looking at renewing our groundwater sources. All of these have to be done in a way that is structured, is planned, and you know what you're doing, and you know within a particular time frame what you will achieve. Storage is a big part of any water network. This government doesn't seem to know where to put things and what's important, because we left water storage tanks with millions of gallons of capacity, and they've just left those tanks sitting there, not realizing that water storage is a critical component in providing regular, good quality water to our people. And then, of course, distribution. You're talking about your pipes and making certain that your transmission pipes, your distribution pipes, all of these are maintained where they need to be replaced. You have a clear budget as to what you're going to do. You link with the people, explain to people where it is you're going, what it is that we want to achieve as far as replacement and maintenance of the pipes are concerned, and we execute. Now, within a reasonable frame, we will be able to fix the water problem using a proper planned approach and listening to the experts and implementing what we agree upon. So water is going to be very important, and we will certainly fix that by using a systematic and a clear plan for the water situation. And of course, we've spoken about interventions with cost of living. Those things can be done within a short period of time. I would say certainly within the first 90 days of a UPP administration, we will address the issues of the cost of living in terms of what the government can do. And the government can address these issues, first of all, by looking at the taxes at the port, and for a limited period of time, whilst we are experiencing the skyrocketing prices, the government will intervene by reducing the customs duties on essential food items. We look at building supplies, plumbing supplies, the plywood, these type of things, so that we can reduce the cost of building construction, which is affecting a lot of people. LIAT is another issue which we will address. We have the maintenance of miners program that can be addressed within the first 100 days because the legislation is already in place. When we were there in 2008, we passed the necessary legislation. And so some of these initiatives, initiatives that we will be able to expand further in our manifesto, but the bottom line will be improving the quality of life of our people. That can be done, and that will be the focus of a UPP administration, certainly in the first part of the term.
Brother Jamal, I know that you have been interacting with the people in your constituency, people all across the length and breadth of Antigua and Barbuda, and fuel prices. That's high on people's minds. And I know that a new UPP administration will look to address this in a systematic way. Because people need to move, people need to use fuel. Speak to some of the things that you are currently mulling in terms of this particular problem, because this government has saddled this country with an increase that was unnecessary.
Well, we have proposed for quite some time that we would peg the cost of fuel to the international market. And this is important because when you have a situation that the prices of gas or petroleum increases, it increases on all around. But then when it's lowered, we hardly ever experience the benefit of the lower fuel. And we're saying that this is something that we need to look at seriously.
Yes.
Because if there's savings, we believe that these savings should be passed on to the people. We cannot continue to look at what it is that we are getting, and we look at making a lot of money because we as a government may probably be overspending, and we cannot lower the cost because this is fulfilling a particular obligation. We have to look at means and ways of passing on the savings to the people of this country. And again, this fits right in with our philosophy, putting people first. It is our intention to offer any relief to the people of this country once we are able to. And we have been asking for the government to reduce the price of fuel since the prices were at its lowest.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. They didn't do anything. But guess what? As soon as the price increased, they were ready and willing to increase the price on the people. And we're saying this is not how you put people first. This is not how you care about people. It is our intention to look at it. We don't have all the figures in front of us, but once we're able to access these figures, wherever there can be savings for the people, we will ensure that the people save.
I like the fact everything that you gentlemen have talked about today, it's about people. It's all about the people. We're going to wrap up this segment of the program. We do have some members of the press who have questions, and so we are going to take a quick break, and we'll have the press ask their questions on this UPP Major Achievements 2004 to 2014, achieving the right things at the right time, benefiting Antigua and Barbuda. Welcome back to the UPP Major Achievements book launch. And in this segment of the program, we are going to give the media an opportunity to ask questions. Please identify yourself, your media house, and then proceed with your question.
Anderson Edwell, independent journalist. I'd like to ask, has the UPP been experiencing any difficulty in communicating its vision, its programs, and its plans to the electorate? And hence, if that is the case, is that a reason for this book of achievements as a reflection or as to bolster that effort?
Okay. I'm not sure if the audience might have heard Mr. Edgehill's question, so I'm going to just repeat the question. Has the UPP experienced any difficulty in communicating its vision and its programs? And is this the reason for the launch of this book?
Well, good question, and it addresses both the past and the future. Now, the vision of the UPP is here. This is how the vision unfolded, and this is a manifestation of the vision that we held. What we discovered was that unless you own that vision, own that legacy, and are forceful with your narrative in terms of what it is that you believe in and how you intend to implement it, it becomes a problem, and others bring in their own distortions, and that can create problems. So this book is intended to set in stone, so to speak. This is the vision in action. But it's a continuum. Mm-hmm. The vision is a transformation of Antigua and Barbuda, making the lives of people better, ensuring that we always put the people first and not ourselves first. And that's the future. So this book creates that foundation on which we're building this house. So what we're saying to the nation of Antigua and Barbuda, we're not just throwing things out without a solid idea of what we believe in, what our values are, our core values, and the things that we hold dear, and the type of transformation that we're looking for. So in this continuum, as you can see how the program is designed, we've had Brother Spencer, who was the architect, so to speak, and it was manifested in what we have here. I am here as the current leader, and I am here with the deputy political leader. And so we can see that what we are doing is showing that whilst they say government is continuous, also the vision is continuous.
Yes.
We continue to renew it, to refresh it, to make it more relevant, but in the end, we will never depart from that fundamental core value of always addressing the issues that affect people and doing everything that we can to make the lives of people better.
And also too, when you look at the misinformation,
yes,
that is spread from the mouths of our opposition, you find that when they speak, it's like the UPP did nothing when we were in office. And it is important for us to document what transpired during the period of 2004 to 2014, so that those persons, because there are quite a number of persons who are just turning 18, who are basically not interested in politics. But you know, when you enter the world of work, it's a different situation. So we are putting it here that they can take up a document and at their leisure go through and make a sound decision on both organizations, because the future is important. But in order for us to look to the future, we must understand where we're coming from. And that is why we also move to publish what we did when we were in office.
And I like the fact, Brother Jamal, that you are saying there's a choice that the voters will have. You can look at the dearth of accomplishments that this government, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government, would have been able to implement in their 2 terms, and look at the solid record of the United Progressive Party. And as Brother Baldwin said when he was here, we did it before, and we can and will do it again. There's another question, sir. Yes?
Yes. Well, clearly your political opponents have and probably will continue to spare no effort in distorting the record of the United Progressive Party. And this is a record that's clear for anyone to see. It's a verifiable record that anyone can examine.
Right.
Even given the fact that you have now produced this document. This isn't politics as far as I'm concerned. It's a verifiable facts that anyone can examine for themselves. Now, this is a remarkable achievement. Once again, just objectively looking at it, this presentation of this document. But what other efforts or what other strategy may be in the pipeline to really cement in the hearts and the minds of people what it is that the UPP would have accomplished over that 10-year period in office? Because I think this is a foundation.
Yes.
But this can be expanded upon and delivered through many different mediums to really clarify the record that your party hopes or continues to stand on. Because this is turning out, as I'm seeing, to be a major issue or major discussion within the political landscape and even among the electorate as to what are the achievements of these 2 political parties that are putting themselves up to govern this country. What is the record? We have this document that's available in print and I believe electronic format. Well, how would we then go forward, or how would your party go forward to expand on it as far as setting the record straight and pretty much silencing the distortions in the narrative that your political opponents have been putting forward?
That is a very analytical, very thoughtful and astute question, sir. Brother Lovell?
The Book of Achievements is the foundation, is the background. We are now engaged in the business of building the house. This is the foundation. We are now going to focus on building the house. This gives credibility to any claims that we may make. So credibility is important to show that we are not just pie in the sky. We know what we're doing. We have experience. We have a track record. But the focus going forward will obviously be the manifesto and the things that we intend to do for this country. Because our focus is not on the past. Our focus is on the future. But a future which ignores the past obviously is likely to be a misguided future.
Right.
So let us put this in perspective. We're not going to spend the next several months or years going over what we've done. Yes, we're happy we've done it. Our focus, however, will be the future of Antigua and Barbuda. But a nation or a people or a party that tries to build a future that doesn't know its past, as Marcus Garvey said, a people who do not know their past are destined to be an enslaved people.
Brother Jamal, I think we're kind of winding up now because we actually have gone a little over time.
Oh, yes, well, I agree with the political leader. It's important. But also, we will continue to engage in discussions during our outings.
Yes.
That we continue to compare and contrast the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party to the United Progressive Party. Because I think this is a competition. And we cannot just sit back and say this is going to do it for us.
Yeah.
We have to continue to advocate and to give people the assurance that we did it already and we will do it again. Because when you compare the tenure of the United Progressive Party, 2 terms, and the ALP, Antigua Barbuda Labour Party, 2 terms, when you look at the vast amount of policies that are geared toward the benefit of the ordinary people of Antigua and Barbuda, there is no comparison. When we look at the social programs, for example, there's a voucher situation happening now. This wasn't implemented by the Antigua Labour Party. The United Progressive Party, we were giving out vouchers back in
2009. It started in 2009.
2009. So clearly, when you look at the program that they say is the Happy Program, we have been doing that program since, I think it's 2005 or 2006 for the elderly.
Yes.
All they do is probably rename it and bring it back in a different format. But all these things existed under the United Progressive Party. So they met a platform there that they could have built on. But then they just continue to use them. When you look at the school uniform grant, you know, there is nothing about these programs that they did to enhance them. And we're saying that we have to continue to speak on what we believe and continue to work in the interest of people. And that is what we will continue to do.
As we wind down the discussion, Brother Lovell, political leader of the UPP, just give us your final thoughts, your final words, and perhaps any thank yous that you might have on this great achievement.
Yes, I just want to begin by once again complimenting and thanking and commending those responsible for the production of this. It's a very important document. We use it as a guide to the future. It allows us to look back on those things that the United Progressive Party did and inspires us for future achievements, which we know we'll be able to accomplish. Gives us that basic outlook that we intend to remain faithful to. And I just want to encourage everyone to tune in, to log on, and to have a look at the achievements of the UPP between 2004 and 2014, and to use this as a basis on which they can say that the UPP indeed has a proud track record. Let us give them the opportunity to transform Antigua and Barbuda. And this, I think, makes the case that the UPP going forward indeed is the right choice at this time.
Well, we want to thank you very kindly, gentlemen, for being here with us. This has been the launch of the UPP Book of Major Achievements. It has already been uploaded to our website, www.voteupp.com. It is a solid 80-page document which lays out for all to see, for posterity, the body of work which the United Progressive Party would have undertaken from 2004 to 2014. And of course, as we've heard throughout this presentation, it overshadows, in comparison, the dearth of accomplishments which this administration has been able to muster for the past almost 9 years in government. For the younger generation, we hope that this book will demonstrate how the UPP programs and policies are still impacting your lives and how they've helped to shape the nation, who we are as a nation. It is our hope that we can all learn from our experiences and that this book will be embraced as a public record and as a key part of our nation's history. I want to again thank you, gentlemen, Brother Harold Lovell, our political leader, our deputy political leader, and the leader of the current opposition in Parliament, the Honorable Jamal Pringle. And earlier we had former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer on an early panel. I also want to say a special thank you to members of the press who participated in this book launch, and to the many Antiguans and Barbudans who joined us via the various media platforms. Thank you for sharing in this moment with us. And do read the book. Don't let it be said that we are not a reading public. We are a reading public. Digest it, see the solid track record on which you can once again trust the people in the United Progressive Party when you cast your vote in the next general elections. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an honor. It certainly has been a pleasure sharing this document with you. The UPP's vision started with a dream to uplift Antiguans and Barbudans. We are seeking another term in office under new leadership with young blood. Yes, young blood, young blood, to fulfill that dream by continuing the important work that we started. We recognize, of course, that the world has changed. There's been a generational shift, and it will require strategic shifts as well in many areas. However, as these gentlemen have said here today, our philosophy as a people-centered party remains intact. And we have assembled the right team, and we remain the right choice. And some people in Antigua and Barbuda say, the only choice. I'm your host, Jackie Quinn. Have a great day.